I had just cast my line into the crystal-clear waters of Glacier Lake when the sharp click of high heels on wood shattered the serenity like a gunshot in church. I didn't need to turn around. That particular rhythm of righteous indignation could only belong to one person. "Excuse me, sir. You are in clear violation." There she was, Victoria Langford, the HOA's iron-fisted community standards director. Perfectly sprayed blonde hair that could withstand a tornado, a pastel pantsuit buttoned to the chin, and a clipboard clutched like a shield of moral superiority. Her sunglasses reflected my dock back at me as if it personally offended her. "This area falls under HOA aesthetic guidelines," she declared, jabbing a manicured finger at the water. "Private recreational activity like fishing is prohibited without board approval to maintain visual harmony for all residents. And where is your resident badge? All members must display credentials on common visual corridors." I slowly reeled in my line and faced her. "Victoria, this is my dock. I own Lot 12. Marcus Hale. Closed on it last month. Pretty sure I can fish off my own property." Her smile tightened like a noose. "Ownership doesn't exempt you from community standards, Mr. Hale. Ignorance of the rules isn't a defense. That's a $275 fine for unauthorized use and failure to display ID. You'll receive the citation via certified mail." As she spun on her heel and marched away, leaving little divots in my grass like angry punctuation marks, I couldn't help but mutter, "Welcome to paradise." The next morning, I walked into the HOA office housed in the rustic community lodge. Behind the desk sat a mousy clerk who looked like he regretted every life choice leading to this moment. "I'd like to review the full bylaws, financial statements, and meeting minutes for the past 5 years," I said pleasantly. The clerk started to stammer when Victoria swept in from the back room like a storm front. "Mr. Hale, those documents are not dispensed casually. There are procedures in place to protect sensitive community information." I slid a certified letter across the counter. "Funny thing about your own bylaws, Article 7, Section 4, any member in good standing can inspect non-confidential records within 48 hours. I'm in good standing. Clock's ticking." She glared daggers but complied, albeit with the enthusiasm of someone passing a kidney stone. Back at my cabin, I spread the documents across the kitchen table. What I found made my blood boil. Lakeside Haven collected over $520,000 in annual dues from its 180 homes. Yet the roads were pothole-ridden disasters, the community dock was a safety hazard, and the security system hadn't worked since Obama's first term. Where did the money go? A whopping $92,000 yearly to Summit Peak Consulting Services for administrative oversight. A quick online search showed Summit Peak had no website, no business license in Montana, no tax filings, and its registered address was Victoria Langford's McMansion 3 streets over. Well, I whispered to the empty room. The Queen has a side hustle. I reached out to an old colleague who now worked financial crimes for the state. Within days, the picture was crystal clear. Fake invoices, unauthorized expenditures, and funds quietly diverted into accounts tied to Victoria and her inner circle on the board. Victoria tried the velvet glove approach next. She appeared at my door bearing a basket of suspiciously perfect scones. "Marcus, I think we may have started off on the wrong foot. These rules exist for the harmony and property values of our beautiful community. Surely a reasonable man like yourself can appreciate that." I took the basket, but didn't invite her in. Harmony, huh? Like the harmony of skimming nearly $250,000 through shell companies while fining residents for having the wrong shade of mulch. "I've seen the books, Victoria. Summit Peak rings any bells?" Her face went through several interesting colors. "Those are serious accusations. The board will need to address your pattern of disruptive behavior. There are provisions for suspending membership privileges, you know." I smiled. "Provisiones primeras reat. Funny how they require due process and a vote you conveniently skipped last time." The escalation came fast. A letter appeared on my door suspending me from meetings for creating division. They even sent a compliance officer to photograph my property for code violations that didn't exist. But I had been busy too. My dossier was growing thicker than Victoria's hairspray, notarized financials, bank traces, an affidavit from a retired CPA neighbor who'd watched dues skyrocket with zero improvements. The monthly board meeting turned into a powder keg. The community hall was packed. Victoria opened with her usual sanctimonious drone about upholding our shared values. Then she couldn't resist. It has come to our attention that certain new residents are spreading malicious rumors and misrepresenting our transparent operations. I stood up calmly. You mean the operations where you created fake vendors to steal from the people who pay your salary? Because according to the records and state law, I have every right to question where $240,000 vanished to. The room erupted. Questions flew like arrows. What happened to the playground fund? Why are we paying for landscaping that never happens? Victoria banged her gavel repeatedly. This meeting is adjourned due to disorderly conduct. Nobody moved. One elderly resident shouted, "We're the ones paying the bills, Victoria. Sit down and answer." The Real explosion came at the county-mandated oversight hearing 2 weeks later. Federal forensic accountants laid it all out in devastating detail. Over $265,000 misappropriated. Wire transfers across state lines. Forged documents. Victoria sat stone-faced as the charges were read. Embezzlement, wire fraud, conspiracy, falsifying business records. "You can't do this," she finally sputtered. "I'm protecting this community." The lead investigator didn't blink. "Ma'am, using HOA funds as your personal piggy bank while weaponizing rules against the actual owners isn't protection. It's theft." She was let out in cuffs, still clutching her clipboard like it could save her from the consequences of her own standards. In the aftermath, an independent trustee took over. New elections were held under court supervision. Every old board member was voted out in a landslide. Transparency rules were rewritten into the charter with teeth. Dues actually went toward fixing things for once. 3 months later, I was back on my dock at dawn. The lake was glass, the mountains majestic, and for the first time, the neighborhood felt like a community, rather than a police state with better landscaping. A kid from down the street biked by and called out, "Hey, Mr. Hale, my dad says you took down the HOA mafia." I laughed. "Nah, kid. They took themselves down. I just handed them the shovel." As I cast my line again into the peaceful water, I couldn't help but reflect on the beautiful irony. The woman who spent years choking everyone with her precious rules ended up strangled by the very same bylaws she twisted for personal gain. So tell me in the comments, was Marcus the real troublemaker for daring to read the fine print and demand accountability? Or did Victoria and her cronies finally get the epic karma they deserved when their little empire of control came crashing down? True or false, the clipboard warriors were the ones who really got what they had coming? Let me know what you think.